Hi everybody. Alright, it's time for another book review. We've got a lot to talk about this one. There was just so much in just half of the book. The first 6 parts of the book. Just death after death after death of old people. Yep. The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre by Philip Fracassi. Alright, so this book, I got it in one of my Twisted Retreat book boxes. The book itself is gorgeous, by the way. I'm going to start talking about the book covers and stuff when I do the reviews, which I notice I haven't been doing. So I'm going to start doing that. This book came in its own little doohickey, little box here. So this is the box. It's very shimmery. This is the front, the title and everything. And this is the back. That is a wheelchair leaking blood on fire, if that's any indication of what the book is about. And here is the front of that. It's the back, and here's what the book is about. Rose Dubois is not your average final girl. Rose is in her late 70s, living out her golden years at the Autumn Springs retirement home. When one of her friends dies alone in her apartment, Rose isn't too concerned. Accidents happen, especially at this age. Then another resident drops dead. And another. With bodies stacking up, Rose can't help but wonder, are these accidents, old age, or something far more sinister? Together with her best friend Miller, Rose begins to investigate. The further she digs, the more convinced she becomes. There's the killer on the loose at Autumn Springs, and if she isn't careful, Rose may be their next victim. And like, yeah, that's an alien. So we have questions already based on the sprayed edges. And Twisted Retreat always does this. Well, they'll have like really laid out interior and exterior as well. But one thing they do sometimes is they'll do like a reverse cover, but like just everything about the books you get from them is just absolutely gorgeous. So they'll do like what the original cover looks like. So this is the original cover, and then you'll get a Twisted Retreat exclusive edition cover as well. And I like that. I like that a lot. You also, every copy is a signed copy too. So this one, this book, oh my Lanta. Let's get into it. Ugh. Even Briar's already tired. So I read this much of the book. I try to do like half of everything. So I read to page 204, the first 6 parts. And I had to take notes. There's so much that happened. I was like, let me take notes so I don't forget. So our first character we're introduced to is Miss Rose. Okay? So we've got Miss Rose and her bestie boo, Miller, are our first 2 characters. Rose and Miller. So they are leaving this little filming that goes on at the retirement home like every once a month or something. This old guy Gopi, he that sounds so disrespectful. This old guy Gopi, he was a film buff or like a film critic in his younger days before he retired, and he puts on like, he'll select films for everyone to watch. Like they do like a big old group movie night. Okay, I should make them just a little bit bigger. I'm not liking their size. She's the main character. Rose is the main character. Miller is a supporting character. But they are like besties. Miller may be in love with Rose. Put a little heart. And not a good heart. But Miller is definitely in love with Rose, and Rose definitely knows it. But she's like, I'm 70 something. I don't need to be dating nobody right now. kind of in her head. Plus, their friendship is really good. Like, fancy foot. Their friendship's really good. They don't, like, it's not, like, awkward that Miller has feelings for her. It's not awkward that she knows. Like, she thinks about it every now and then, but it's not like it's ruining their friendship or anything like that. So, they're good. So, they're going home to their own apartments in the retirement home. Like, they have, like, it's a really expensive retirement home. So, they have, like, super fancy apartments. And Rose's friend, Angie, pops up. I'll just put Angie right here. It's either Angie or Angela. I'm going to call her Angie. The Anja part is accurate. And Angie comes over to Rose as they're leaving and is like, Rose, can we get lunch tomorrow? I would like to talk to you about something. And Rose is like, oh, absolutely, darling. I would love to. In my head, that's how they talk. But, like, she was just like, Rose, I would love to have lunch with you. I really would like to discuss something with you. And Rose is like, okay, cool. It wasn't as fancy as that, but in my head, that's how all old people in a really expensive retirement home talk. Just, you know, with that lilt in their voice. And Angie had been seeing someone. Like, she just started dating someone at the retirement home. So Rose is like, oh, it's probably because she wants to talk about her new beau. Like, everyone's seen them around the property together. I'm glad she can find love. It's just not for me, but I'm glad she can still find love in our age. Basically, well, they don't get to the lunch. Because literally, the next fucking chapter is Angie in her home, preparing to go to bed, and someone else is in her room with her. So the way the retirement home works is you can lock your doors, but you can't deadbolt them. And the what's he called? The administrator, the head of the retirement home. I forgot what they call him or what they're called, but the person who oversees the everything, the retirement home, he for sure has a skeleton key to all the rooms. The nursing staff, maintenance have access to the rooms. So that's important to know. But Angie notices that her window is open. It's Angela. My notes are right there. So Angela notices that her window is open. And she's like, well, that's weird. I didn't open my window. Whatever. Oh my God, I can't spell. She's like, well, that's weird. I didn't open my window. Okay. But at the same time that she's noticing her window's open, she also noticed that there is someone in her room. Now, this person is never really fully described. I personally think it's a dude. Just the way that the violence that is about to happens, it comes off as a dude. But poor old Angela gets her fucking shit rocked. Like, she gets beat the fuck up. And then as she's lying there, like, in pain and, like, dying, her attacker goes into the bathroom to run a bath to make it look like she slipped and fell while trying to have a late night bath. And then, like, literally, like, essentially curb stomps her to death. I guess I should have added a trigger warning. A lot of old people die in very, I won't say gruesome, although one of them died in a gruesome-ish way. Descriptive. Let's just say descriptive. So we get her final thoughts and how she died. But right off the bat, we're starting off with death. We don't get like weaned into it or anything like that. We're just right off the bat, Angela's dead. So that is 1 for the body count. So the next morning, Rose is like, oh, I haven't heard from Angela. We were supposed to get lunch. So she goes to Angela's and she sees the coroner there. She sees Blackwell. We'll put him down here. He's the head of the place. And a nurse. I'll just put him like this for now. And then there's a nurse there too. And they're like, yeah, Angela died last night. Looks like she slipped and fell while trying to take a bath. And Rose, at first, she's like, oh, well, that sucks. But this is a retirement home. This is where everybody's coming to spend their final years. But then she sees the nurse go close Angela's bedroom window. And for some reason that strikes her as odd. It's not really fully explained why, but she was like, that's a little weird. And it's important to note at this point that Rose and Miller like to watch a lot of detective shows together. And she used to be a school teacher, I think it was. But whatever it is, she has a very, like, sharp mind. So she's just like, that is a little weird. But so she goes and she talks to Miller and she tells Miller what happened. And Miller's like, man, that sucks. But that's like kind of the only reaction that they have at the time because it's a retirement home and it's kind of expected that, you know, residents of a retirement home will eventually, you know, die. So as awful as it sounds and as shitty as it is, they're like, these things happen. So Rose, at first, she's like, you know, she's just sad about it. And she's like, well, Angela was a sweetheart. She probably just wanted to talk to me about, you know, Owen, her new beau that she's been with around town, blah, blah, blah. But there's something in the back of her head that's like nagging at her about, well, okay, something is a little strange here. And she starts going like, well, why would Angela be taking a bath so late at night? And why was her window open and stuff? So she literally convinces herself that something's amiss. Just thinking about it over and over again. Literally, she goes, something's afoot. And so she decides to take a walk. And she goes to the med center. So there's a med center on the property where for the people who can no longer live on their own in their apartments, they end up moving into the med centers to have more around the clock care. So she goes there to see if she can find the nurse that responded to the, hey, there's a dead body here call. Not sponsored. And she, on her way there, we get introduced to this character. I'm going to put him in blue. I just feel like he's a blue. But he's like this gentle soul named Tatum, who has like late stages of like dementia or Alzheimer's. And every day he sits at the little pond at the bench and feeds the ducks. And he is perpetually every day waiting for his dog that died 7 years ago to come back so they can go home. And he keeps saying, I want to go home. Not remembering that he lives at the retirement home now. And it's really sad, but he's such a sweet, gentle soul that I'm like, if anything happens to this fucking character, or if it turns out in some weird way that this fucking character is the villain, I'm going to be so mad. Because the writer's done a really good job of making us go, oh, whenever Tatum is on scene. So it's just kind of like, don't let anything happen to Precious Tatum. Don't make Precious Tatum be bad. If it turns out at the end that he's pretending to be this fucking crazy the whole time, I'm gonna be pissed and immediately decide this was a terrible book because that's such a fucking cop-out. Anyway, I digress. So that's where we meet Tatum, and he does come up a couple more times. He's not a present all the time character, so he's definitely a very, very background supporting character, but he's obviously mentioned, so he's important for some reason. So she, on her way to the med center, runs into Tatum, and she likes to sit and talk to Tatum because it's Tatum. I think everybody likes Tatum. Like, there's no reason to hate him. Like, he's just feeding ducks. That's literally all he does. And look for his dead dog. That's literally all he does. But, so the nurse, she goes to the nurse, and for the love of me, I never wrote down the nurse's name, so we're just going to call her Nurse. And she goes to the nurse, who coincidentally is coming out to get Tatum, because it's like, hey, it's getting a little chilly, you should go inside. But she asked the nurse some questions about her friend's death, and at first the nurse is like, I can't discuss that with you. And then Rose plays the, Angela was such a good friend, and this is just a shock to me, like, I just don't understand how this happened. We just talked the other, like literally yesterday, we were gonna get lunch. Like, she lays it on thick, and the nurse is like, well, I can tell you it really does seem like it was just a simple fall. And Rose is like, oh, okay. And then she can tell the nurse is getting irritated because she's asking like questions like she's a detective who's mourning, but still a detective. And then Rose, eventually she asks her, like, oh, one other thing. Do you know if the window was open or closed when you got there? And the nurse just goes, it was closed. And then she goes, okay, well, I really gotta go now, and takes Tatum inside. And Rose is like, that's a weird thing to lie about in her head, because she saw the nurse close the window that had been left open. And so she's like, what a strange thing to lie about. So now she really thinks something else is going on just because the nurse lied about that. When, as Miller points out later when she's bouncing these thoughts off Miller, he's like, she could have just forgot. And Rose is like, maybe. But she's like, no, something's going on here. So we don't get that far. Rose has a daughter. We'll put a bloodline down here. Rose has a daughter named Sybil. You'll have to excuse my chicken scratch. I promise you, I am a grown adult, but I can't write. Sybil can have fancy legs. Rose's daughter Sybil comes for lunch, and Sybil drops this huge bombshell on her about how she and her boyfriend, which Rose cannot stand, and it's actually uncomfortable to read because you can tell how much she cannot stand him. But Rose cannot stand her daughter's boyfriend / father of her child, by the way. But she's like, yeah, we're moving into a house and I want you to move in with us. And Rose was like, I beg your pardon. It came out of nowhere. Rose was like, you want me to do what now? Because Rose chose to go to this retirement home. It wasn't like her family said, go. She chose to come here because she likes her independence. She likes that if she does need medical help, it's literally not even a block away. She likes having that independence. She does not want to live with Sybil's boyfriend, which she's not going to say that out loud, but that is part of the reason she's like, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. But so she's like, this is a lot to take in. And Sybil's like, yeah, I don't want you to decide right now. Just think about it. I know you love it here, and I know you love being around your friends in this community, but, you know, we miss you. By we, she means her and then Rose's grandson. So Rose has to think about that while the other events of this book happen. So it's been maybe 2 or 3 days. Like, not a lot of time has passed. It's been a week at most. And Angela's beau, Owen, he's super sad. Why am I drawing such fancy legs for these people? He's super sad. He's super sad because him and Angela were really, really getting along, and he was happy to have found love again, and he really, really liked Angela, and then she dies, and he's like, this is sad. And he's like, he's drinking, but he always drinks. This isn't anything new for him. And then one night, while he's mourning Angela's very, very recent death, don't forget that. This shit literally just happened like less than a week ago. There's someone in his room. Now, mind you, he's kind of drunk and he's lying on his bed and he's like, oh my God, there's someone in my room. And this someone attacks him. And this someone, I'm not going to get too graphic with it, but they stage his death to look like a suicide in the bathtub. So, less than a week later, we now have 2 deaths on the board. Yeah, so whoever this killer is, because I'm halfway through the book and I have my suspicions, but we don't know who it is. Whoever this killer is, they are moving quick, which they must have a plan in mind for how fast they're moving, or they're just not smart, because it's eventually going to raise suspicions. So yeah, he gets murdered and it stages a suicide. We only know that it's murder because we get, like I said, their point of views of them being killed. If it had been written as straight up just Rose's point of view without the outside look, it could be like a maybe they did just die type of situation, but we know that they've been killed. So now Rose and the rest of the community has heard, what, Owen killed himself? That don't sound like Owen. Yeah, he was sad about Angela, but come on, really? That don't sound right. And at this point, there's a detective involved. Kind of involved. Right now, it's just whenever a death is reported, a homicide detective has to go out and rule that it was not a homicide, I guess is what they said. But I'll put him up here. Detective Hastings. For some reason, I kept calling him Haldwell in the book, but it's Hastings. I have problems. But, so we get a brief intro. I gave him a peener. Censor. So we get a brief intro into Hastings, and it's really quick right now. It's just he's here for this body. He's like, didn't we just come out here for someone else? And he's like, yeah, I guess it's a retirement home and people die. And then he also hears that these two were dating. He's like, so he really could have, this really could just be a suicide. But the back of his head, his detective brain, he's like, something feels off. I don't have any evidence to prove that something is off here, but something definitely feels off. So, yeah. So at that point, he's got it in the back of his head, but there's not much he can do because it really does just look like two old people. One died, one got sad that the other one died and killed himself. So that's where he's at right now in this story. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything because, my God, so much happened. So there is something that happened after Angela died while Rose and Miller were talking. Before Rose decided to go talk to the nurse, these three, I'm just going to put them as like a three-headed serpent. I don't even know where I want to put them. I'm going to put them right here. The Baxter sisters. I'm just going to put literally 3 heads on one body because they act like one person. Okay, so it's Beatrice, Bridget, and Betsy. I don't even know if I want to write down their names, but because they literally they're always together. They act as one. They act like they're one person. But so Beatrice, Bridget, and Betsy, they always dress like really gothic and like they're considered witches. They approach Rose and Miller, I think the day of Angela's death, and they're trying to get all like the details of it because they like the spooky, gory stuff. Well, that's what we think at the time. And that's when Rose is like, I'm gonna go talk to the nurse, bye, and leaves Miller with them. She's like, deuces, and just leaves them. But so they're in there. They come up later. That's why I wanted to bring them up now, but they come up later because those three could have their own little book. They're wild. So now at this point, there is an old man. I'll put him up here. His name is Stan. Stan, outside of the friends he has at the retirement home, has nobody. He is one of those who believes in aliens and UFOs and the things that we cannot see and things like that. And it slowly ruined his marriage and his relationship with his kids and all of that. To the point where his kids don't speak to him anymore. He got a divorce, all of that. But he knows that one of these days, it's all going to be worth it. Mind you, he's in a retirement home, getting close to the time where it's, time for him to move on from this earth. But he knows eventually it's gonna be worth it. And he is like, now is that time. Now it is worth it. Because he gets a mysterious letter. And that mysterious letter is from the government. So let me just give him his letter. He gets a letter. UFOs are real. So he gets a letter that basically says, hey, you've been selected for a secret organization. Aliens are real. And if you accept our invitation, you can come see a real spaceship. And he's like, I knew it. And so he follows their instructions to send them a response that basically it's his accepting the invitation response. And then he'll get another letter explaining what to do. So that's the little part we read about Stan, and you're like, oh, precious baby honey. Precious baby Stan. So that's the little quick thing we get about Stan, and you already feel in your heart of hearts when you read that, you're like, this can't be good. This can't be good at all. Poor Stan. But, so after that, he, goes home and he does like the whole, he goes back, he's in the med center now because he's not able to really like take care of himself. And when he wakes up in the middle of the night, there is an alien standing at the foot of his bed and it talks to him, and that's kind of where his part leaves off for now. And then we switch to, his name is Gopi. Gopi? I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm pretty sure it's Gopi. And Gopi has been, put him right here. It's so chaotic up here, my God. Gopi is the one that hosts the film nights once a month. And he has been looking for Halloween or spooky movies since Halloween is coming up. Or it's like, Halloween's like next month or something. So he's been up all night. It's like 2 a.m. and he's just been selecting movies. And he's taking a little break to grab a drink, and he gets up to grab a drink, and he sees, lights on in this abandoned building on the property that's like supposed to be like boarded up and no one's supposed to be there, things like that. And he's like, well, that's weird. So this guy, brave as he must be, decides to go investigate by himself. 2 a.m. in the morning. Old man. I mean, I guess he's in good enough shape because when he gets there and he's investigating the property, he gets chased by something and he's able to haul ass and run. He's out of breath by the time he gets back to his place and like feels like he's dying. He doesn't die, but he's like, oh my God, that was close. Oh my God, what was it? So like he sees lights in the asylum. He hears something behind him. And he hears whatever it was chasing him as he's running. And then when he gets to his apartment, he locks the door and something goes up to his door and knocks. And he's just like, the whole time until the thing leaves. And then he was like, what the fuck was that? And that's how his part ends. So now you're like, okay, so there's things going on in the asylum. That's cool. Alrighty then. What was that? So that's Gopi's part, and he comes up later. So after this, I believe, let me make sure my train of thoughts are right. So after this, Miller introduces Rose to another resident named Mickey, and he's like this really like buff old guy who's like in great shape and all that. And he introduces them to Gopi. So Gopi tells them about what he saw and how him and Miller went back during the day to investigate. They didn't see nothing. And then Mickey goes, I have someone y'all should probably meet. And they go and meet Stan. And so Stan tells them about the letter. He tells them about the alien that stood at the foot of their bed and how the alien told them that they were going to basically kill everybody in the retirement home except Stan, because Stan was chosen and part of their special program now, but everybody else was going to die, is basically what Stan told them. And they don't know how much stock to take in what Stan is saying. Like, they see the letters, but Stan is on so many painkillers right now. Like, he is high off his ass, and they don't know how real what he's saying is, because of all the painkillers that he's on. But the letters are real, and so in their head, they're like, someone is playing a really mean prank on Stan, is what they're thinking right now. So that happens. Then we get the most random death. This guy named Ergo, who has a heart condition, so he takes pills for it. He got slipped some, like, it was like a Viagra or something. It gave him like a boner, like, so someone slipped Viagra into his meds, left a nudie magazine on his bed, and the magazine gets his heart rate going and gets him a boner, and then he's like, oh my god, my heart, and he can't find any of his meds because all the pills he had stashed around in bottles around his apartment are mysteriously gone. And by the time he gets to his call button, he's like passed out on the floor, and then someone comes into the room that he recognizes as someone who had been there earlier to play chess with him, and he's like, my pills, quick, give me my pills, or get for help. And the person looks at him, doesn't describe who it is or if they're male or female or not, and the person leaves, just leaves. And so Ergo dies, and Miller explains to Rose it was really weird how he died, because he died with a post-mortem boner apparently. And Rose was like, language. But at this point they're like, okay, there's 3 dead people in a span of like not even 2 weeks, and they're like, this is weird, this is really weird. So at this point they don't really, they're like, what do we do, because this is different. And they're all getting a little concerned. They're all scared, because if this is somebody killing them, how do they get the police to believe them? Because the police think it's just old people dying of old age. And like Ergo dying with a boner, like, well, he's a dude and we found a nudie magazine. Shit happens. So at this point they decide, I forgot what their reasoning was, but they're like, we need to go talk to the Baxter sisters, because they seemed really interested in Angela's death, and a neighbor of Angela's told them to go talk to the Baxter sisters. So they're like, guess we're gonna go talk to those fucking weirdos. And the Baxter sisters only let Rose and Miller come up. They're like, fuck Mickey and fuck Gopi. Okay, so let me put Mickey up. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. But so Miller and Rose go up to the Baxter sisters' apartment, and they straight up were like, yeah, we're the ones that have been in the asylum. And they're like, why? Let me tell you, these 3 have been trying to summon a demon named Horus for protection, because they also think something is going on in these apartments or in the retirement home, because Angela's neighbor told them that they heard the struggle and that they know Angela was murdered, but they were so scared when the detectives came and were asking around that they lied and said they didn't hear anything out of the ordinary. So they're like, yeah, someone's definitely killing people. We're summoning a demon for our protection. Y'all need to be safe. It's pretty much what they said. And before they leave, one of the sisters, Betsy, gives Rose this little protection amulet. But yeah, they're like, we're summoning a demon, so we're good. We almost got the bastard last time. We're going to get him this time. But that's what we're doing. Y'all need to figure out what y'all going to do to stay safe. Get out now. And so they're like, well, okay. Like, they don't really know what to do with that information. They're just like, it's okay. Well, good luck with your demon summoning, I guess. Best of luck. So at this point, they don't really think the Baxter sisters have anything to do with what's going on. They just think, okay, those 3 are in their own little world. That's fine. They can do that. So at this point, Hastings, the detective, this guy, is getting even more sus, because now he's got, what, 3 bodies in such a short span of time. But his boss, the chief, is like, you're not going back out there to detect. You're not doing that. There's just no point. No. Old people die. It's a retirement home. It's where they go to die. No. And so he's like, fine, I've got other cases I need to work on. But then, Stan wakes up one night to see the alien is waiting for him outside of his bedroom window in the med center. And if Stan had not been high off his ass on all these different painkillers, maybe Stan would have realized something was off, but he didn't. The alien spoke perfect English. The alien just told him, come with me if you want to see the spaceship. And Stan was like, finally, what I've been waiting for my whole life. And Stan painfully crawls out of the window because, like, he's old. He's on drugs. Gets out the window and he follows this alien for so freaking long. And they get to an old fire tower. And Stan's like, I thought we were seeing a spaceship. And the alien's like, duh, bro, it's up there. And I'm like, the alien's talking like this? For real? So the alien has Stan go up first. So Stan's walking, but Stan's old, so this is taking forever because the fire tower is really high. And he's like, but as he gets higher, he sees these like flashing lights. He's like, oh my God, it's happening. But as he gets higher, he's also getting like this really weird sense of foreboding. And at several points, he tries to turn around and go back down, but the alien's like, no, go up, go up, go up. And at one point, the alien pulls out a knife and is like poking him, going, go up, go up. So Stan gets to the top and there's no spaceship. And he's like, what? You said we'd see a spaceship. And the alien is like talking like a dude that's just irritated to have to be talking to Stan. And at this point you realize that it's a costume, but Stan is so high off his ass and now he's confused and he's tired and he's scared that he doesn't notice this, but he's talking to somebody who's in an alien costume. So let me see if I can, let me borrow the board for a second, see if I can. Alien impersonator. So like what, a big head and then a little body. Wee and big eyes. That's not that bad. Alright. So the alien impersonator, not bad, right? Has Stan standing at like the ledge. And he's like, Stan, look up. And Stan's looking up into the stars. And he's like, Stan, can't you see we've traversed through several galaxies? You've done it. You've traversed through several galaxies. We are far, far away. And blah, blah, blah. And Stan's like feeling this moment of bliss. And he's like crying tears of happiness. He's like, I've done it. I finally did it. And then the fake alien pushes him off the ledge. And Stan falls to his death. So, sorry. So no more Stan. And now we're at 4 deaths in a span of not even 2 weeks. So now Hastings is back on scene and he's like, all right, this is fucking weird. He goes, I know the nurses say Stan was high off his ass. He was super depressed. He was rapidly declining. How did this old man climb out this window, go all the way over there, like all the way over there to this fire tower, climb all the way up to that fire tower and then jump? This man, they said, was not, they called him feeble. So how did he do all this? But they don't find any evidence. They do find one of those toy disco balls that does the flashing lights. But he doesn't think anything of it. He thinks it was just got left there by, like, you know, teens that broke into the fire tower or something. But so he's like, okay, something weird might be going on. And he wants to go talk to Blackwell. But on his way to Blackwell, because he's like, nah, I need to talk to Blackwell. Something suspicious is going on. And I bet even if Blackwell's not the one doing it, Blackwell knows something about it. So he goes to Blackwell. Sorry, one second. I need to stretch my legs. And we're back. Alright, so Hastings is going to Blackwell. But on the way to Blackwell, he sees Rose and Tatum sitting at the pond, and Rose like beckons him over like, hey, come here. So Rose meets Detective Hastings. She takes Hastings to go see Miller, Mickey, and Gopi, and they tell him everything that they've been suspecting. And so Miller's like, this is a lot of information, and while I'm not saying I fully believe you, I'm not saying I don't not believe you either. Like, he's like, I'll look into this stuff, but for now, keep these ideas under wraps, because everybody of this community is freaked out as it is. So for now, just keep it under wraps. I'll look into it, and I will see if this is anything we need to actually be worried about. And so they feel better because they're like, okay, well, at least somebody is gonna at least look into it. So it ends with Hastings going to talk to Blackwell, but we don't get to see that part yet. So for the next week, the retirement home tries to do things to like cheer up the rest of the community. Like every day is a different event of some sort, and there isn't a death at all for that whole week. So it kind of helps bring people out of the funk and like the fear and stuff. The Friday of the end of that week, Rose is getting ready for a dinner party that a lady that we have not met yet, she is throwing. A lot of people. She invited like basically everybody under the sun at their retirement home to a dinner party at one of her apartments in the Seaside View, which is one of the bigger apartments. And she said, be there 7 p.m. sharp. And I'm suspicious of this dinner party. I want to see who all the guests are. I know Rose and Miller were invited for sure. I believe Gopi and Mickey too. And then there's this one lady, Maureen, who lives there, who got invited, and she had a little scare earlier on, where she saw someone standing outside of her window watching her, but this person didn't get in because, I forgot why they didn't get in. I think she's pretty sure she flashed this person the gun that she has. Yeah, she's got a little gun. And so while she's getting ready for this party, she's like, better safe than sorry, and brings the gun. And her part ends with her putting the gun in her purse. There is an old man whose name I don't remember, but his is really random. It is, he can't find his teeth. Yeah, his name is Ben. So, Ben, no teeth, MIA. So he can't find his teeth. They've been missing for like a day or two now, and he's so embarrassed by it that he's just been hiding in his apartment eating soup. He knows they're there somewhere. He has a routine. He puts them in the same spot every night, but they're not there. So he's like, they'll turn up. I don't want to have to go to the frickin' med center to explain that I lost my goddamn teeth. He's worried that that will make them think that he's not able to take care of himself anymore because he's at the retirement home. And he's not ready to move into the med center because he's still fully capable. He just lost his teeth. But, and it's like moving into the med center is basically like a death sentence. It means that you're literally on death's door, and eventually, like, moving into the med center is just admitting defeat to the residents there. So, he is a character that's just been introduced, so I have a feeling that he's going to be the next one to die. That's just my speculation, because this is where the part ends. And one other thing that happens with Hastings is Hastings talks to a bunch of other residents who are watching Stan's body be transported out of the woods, and he asks about the med center, and like the volunteers, like people who live in the apartments will volunteer to go spend time with people at the med center. And Hastings is like, so is there any residents who are like super generous with their time, like are just there all the time? And they all say, oh yeah, there is one. Beauregard. Beauregard is Miller's first name. So apparently Miller spends a lot of time visiting people in the med center, but yet had never met Stan before Mickey introduced them. So I found that was weird, because when Mickey brought them to meet Stan, Miller had absolutely no recollection or acted like he did not ever meet Stan before. And then the only other interesting thing that happened is this nurse was going to clean out Stan's room, and she caught Blackwell taking two, oh my god, those are triangles. She caught Blackwell taking 2 letters out of Stan's room. So in my head, it's the letters from the government saying, hey, you're part of a special program. UFOs are real and you can see a spaceship. The one that Stan told them about. And then they ended up telling Hastings, we saw the letters. Someone was setting him up for this. And so Hastings is going to end up wanting to see those letters. But I'm pretty sure Blackwell just took those. So Blackwell has something to do with this. I don't know what. I don't think he's the one killing everybody, although the nurse has this internal thought about how when residents like Stan who don't have anybody in their life or have no one who their finances, their will and stuff leaves to, when they pass, all of their money, their accounts and stuff get transferred over to the retirement home, and that's how they get a lot of their money, is through residents that don't have family or don't have anybody on their will. The money gets auto sent to the retirement homes. So the nurse is thinking like Autumn Springs gets a lot of money from their residents dying, but she also thinks Blackwell might be like, you know, taking a little off the top too. So that's something else to think about also. But so this part ends where I'm at. Part 6 ends with Rose getting ready for this dinner. Miller's going to meet her at her place. They're going to walk together so that they're not walking alone to a party while there's a possible killer on the loose. And it ends with she's got 15 minutes and there's a knock at her door and she thinks it's Miller. And it literally ends with her going to open the door. That's it. So that's where I left off. And it's a page turner for sure. If you're not, I wouldn't say squeamish, but if reading sad things about old people and bad things happening to old people makes you sad, don't read this book. Do not read this book, because reading about their final thoughts before they die, even though Stan did die really happy, it's fucking sad as shit. Like, Angela and Owen being terrified as shit when they died. Ergo was terrified as shit too. Just reading their final thoughts, and like it's sad as shit. But the book itself is really good. It's wonderfully written. Like, you get a good feel for all of the characters really well, and you love like the scenery. Like, you feel like you're there with them. But there are very, very sad scenes. Their deaths are kind of descriptive, but not as descriptive as you would think. You do get like you do get kind of like a play-by-play of how they die. But I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying this book so far. I cannot wait to read the other half. My next review is going to be... Don't fall. Don't fall. I should have taken this down before. My next review is going to be the first half of Honeybees and Distant Thunder. I'm already almost to my halfway point. So the next post will be about this one. And then I'm adding Sleep Tight into my rotation as well. But that is all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.